In terms of the week to week, I typically try to keep that schedule. But say if a doctor's appointment comes up or, something comes up, I really appreciate the flexibility in the schedule that I can take 2 hours during the day to go to the doctor's appointment and finish that up later if I need to or whatnot.
Welcome to Actualizing Success. In this podcast series, our in-house advisors discuss today's finance and technology topics with an emphasis on solutions that embrace tomorrow.
Hi, my name is Jacquie Zirkle, and I am a manager at Actualize Consulting. Thank you for tuning in. Today, we will be discussing the best practices to working remotely at Actualize Consulting. The history of Actualize has evolved, as when we first started, our clients wanted us to be on-site most of the time. We had office space mainly for all-hands meetings, and if we needed client meetings. Team's home base was always remote. Over the years, clients have wanted consultants less and less on-site, and after COVID, it was drastically reduced. Now we mainly go on site for initial project design sessions. I asked our COO, Carrie Wecklow, why she thinks remote working has benefited Actualize. She said, I believe it has helped with our low attrition rate that has been steady at less than 5% for the last 10 years. If someone needs to step away for an appointment, we trust that they will get their work done, whether starting earlier or staying later to make up for the missed time. We're joined today by Senior Manager Alysia Kennedy and Senior Consultant Kathryn Williams. Alysia, how long have you been working with Actualize Consulting?
I've been here, I'm going on 15 years now.
And what's your role with the company?
I'm a senior manager.
Well, and Kathryn, how long have you been working with Actualize Consulting?
I've been working with Actualize just under a year and a half at this point. I'm a senior consultant.
All right. Now, had either of you worked in a fully remote position previously?
I certainly haven't.
I hadn't either.
So, Alysia, I know when you started working at Actualize, on-site work was preferred. Can you tell us how the transition has been through your experience and what the hardest part was?
Sure. So while I appreciated the remote working in between all the, on-sites, because it was a nice, break from having to travel and be home for a while, I have to admit it was a bit tough for me to go fully remote because I missed the in-person interactions.
Have you seen any big benefits from working from home that you didn't have when you were going into the office?
I have, but there are also other challenges, mainly separating like work life from home life. Since it is more convenient to work from home, I would log on earlier to check emails. And at the end of the day, I would work later sometimes knowing that I didn't have to commute home. So the days kind of blurred, right? There was there was no line really separating, again, home life and work life. But net, I would say the benefits outweigh the challenges because, eliminating the travel and commute time, which I would calculate to be over 10 hours in a given week traditionally, that has really helped with maintaining a better work-life balance. So it has allowed me to work full-time with 2 little kids, knowing that I can log on later in the evening if I have a hard stop that day. It's also given me the flexibility to move cross-country with my job.
That's great. And we're going to get into a bit more of how you've dealt with those challenges a little bit later. I want to thank you for sharing those. Kathryn, given that you're relatively new to the workforce and haven't had as much experience working in person, what are your thoughts about not going into the office?
Yeah, so when I first got this job and, heard that I was going to be working fully remote, I was a little nervous because I have a very extroverted personality. So I thought I was going to miss the, day-to-day in-person interactions. But I found that it doesn't bother me at all and that I absolutely love it. I do plenty with my friends, at night and on the weekends, and I get that in-person interaction, and I don't feel like I'm missing it in the office. So overall, I really love it. Obviously, there's definitely challenges and benefits, but similar to what Alysia said, I feel like the benefits definitely outweigh the challenges. I feel like some of the challenges are that you have to be much more self-motivated than you would be in the office. There's no one kind of hovering over your shoulder, making sure that you're doing your work. But if you are self-motivated, then it's not really an issue, I would say. The benefits are just like, I love not having to commute. I can wake up later and get more sleep. I love making my lunch at home. I love the flexibility. I love working in my comfy clothes at home. And I love how much money I save by not taking the subway every day and having to buy a $30 salad at lunch. So those are a lot of the reasons that I really enjoy the remote work.
That's great. Now, how would you describe kind of the remote work expectations that you guys have seen from Actualize to a new coworker? I'm going to start with Alysia.
The expectations are not really different from when you are working in an office, right? You just need to make sure you are readily accessible to your team. So things like, I think we'll be talking about it later, but, making sure you are using the tools that we have available to us. So we are, acting as a team that's working together in tandem throughout the day.
And Kathryn, do you have anything that you would like to add to that?
Yeah, I feel like, with any job, you just have to get your work done, work your hours, and make sure that you put out the best work product, and just kind of the changes where you're doing it. But it gives us the flexibility, kind of as previously mentioned, to get the work done. And if something comes up, to, work around that, and enables us to kind of, I think, intertwine our lives more easily with the work, which is nice.
Now, Alysia, earlier you had mentioned kind of the challenges of those blurred lines between work-life balance and working from home. So how have you built your hours and schedule, and does that change from week to week?
It doesn't really change from week to week. And I will say the one benefit of having kids is it's kind of forced me to create some of those boundaries, because I really don't have an option, right? Kids have very concrete set hours around school. So in the mornings, I'm always the first one up. I put on a pot of coffee, and then I am at work. I am taking meetings as early as 6 a.m. my local time, and I am knocking out emails. And then by the time they're up, I've already put in a solid couple of hours of work. I do carve out like an hour to help them get off to school. And then after that, I'm straight back in, and I work straight through until they're home. There's no variability from week to week, but again, I've just gotten better about having those like set working hours.
I can definitely agree with that. I tend myself to wake up before my kids do and knock out a bunch of work, and while the house is quiet, and it is a nice benefit to be able to be there with them when you're needed. Kathryn, how would you describe your work from home flexibility and the schedule that you have built?
Yeah, so I have a daily morning every morning at 8:45 a.m. So that's when I start my work day. And I generally try to work around then until 5 with a break for lunch. Obviously, I live in a very small apartment, so my desk is literally right next to my bed. So definitely initially I was trying to figure out, how to make that balance. But basically I work those hours, and then when I log off for the day, I close my computers, and I just don't even have any desire to look at them. So I found just like I like to get on with my after work life, once I finish that. So I found that to be relatively easy. In terms of the week to week, I typically try to keep that schedule. But say if a doctor's appointment comes up, or, something comes up, I really appreciate the flexibility in the schedule that I can take 2 hours during the day to go to the doctor's appointment and finish that up later if I need to, or whatnot.
Coming into this environment that was fully remote, was there anything that kind of scared you about adapting to that flexibility?
I don't know if there was anything like that was scaring me about the flexibility as much as like, the ability to build relationships with people, which I think that we're going to talk about in a bit, which I think is one of the main other challenges of remote work, just like adapting to how that kind of looks in this kind of setting. But in terms of the flexibility, I'm a pretty organized person. So I think that works well for me, where I'm able to kind of figure out when I need to be, really heads down doing work, and when I have maybe some open times where I can figure things out, or maybe stop for my lunch break, stuff like that. So I think that's been kind of helpful in forming my own schedule. But yeah, at the beginning, I think I didn't really know how that was going to look. So it definitely took a couple months to kind of figure out my own work style and how to like adapt to kind of making my own schedule.
So I'm going to stick with Kathryn for a second. How did you develop your accountability to be able to work from home?
Yeah, so I feel like with accountability, it kind of just comes from my personality. I like to get everything done as quickly and efficiently as possible while still putting out good work product. And I really don't like letting down anyone. So that just means I want to make sure I get all my work done so that my team doesn't have to hassle me or ask where things are. So that kind of just the want to get everything done on time kind of just makes it easy to be accountable, because I don't want to be the person, taking down the team and not being on time. So I think that just kind of part of my own personality keeps me accountable to myself and people on my team.
Excellent. So how do you deal with those distractions and maintain your accountability?
Yeah, so I would say in terms of eliminating distractions, sometimes I do have to switch rooms. It's not always possible to control the environment right around me, especially since we downsized. So I don't have my own office space. I think we'll be talking about that in a bit as well. In terms of like other ways to maintain your accountability, we have a timesheet where you need to log in quarter-hour increments. So I have a very detailed timesheet tracking tool where I'm logging those hours separately on my file. And then, at the end of the week, we're being expected to submit our official timesheet. The other tool is, our performance is also based on client or internal feedback. So it's important to get your deliverables completed in a timely manner and to be easily accessible.
Alysia, how did you go about setting up your workspace when you transitioned to be fully remote?
So as I mentioned, I did lose my office with our recent move. So I ended up carving out a corner of our new place with just a desk and a chair. It's almost better than having an actual office in some place because there's less clutter. I need to keep my space tidy since it's out in the open and exposed. I have a bit of a routine now where, Friday night when I'm done with work, I shut down my laptop and I put it away. And it's also helped kind of create that delineation between work life and home life because my work laptop is just out of sight all weekend.
Were there things that you overlooked that you really needed to be successful? I know that with the downsizing, you said that you were putting everything into a smaller area. Were there tools that you didn't have available?